Hey there, humans. Hope you're doing well. We are here today to talk about solving some multi-step one-sided linear equations. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to start by just kind of going over the goal. When you're solving an equation, the goal is you're trying to find the value for the unknown or the variable that will make the equation statement true by isolating that variable, which basically means you're going to use a whole bunch of inverse operations to basically get the variable all by itself on one side of the equation. So to do this, we'll be using some distribution property. We'll have to know how about collecting like terms and understanding inverse operations and the laws of equality. So an inverse operation just means like addition and subtraction are sort of inverse operations. One undoes the other. Multiplication and division are inverse operations. And the laws of equality state that you can do anything you want pretty much to one side as long as you're doing it to the other side in an equation. So with those in mind, let's get to it. So here we have a linear equation, a one-sided linear equation, which means the variable is only on one side. And we have this parentheses bracket right here. And what those mean are we've got four groups of these things right here. So that's how we read it mathematically. What's really happening right here is we've actually got a group of 2x minus 3 plus another group of 2x minus 3 plus another group of 2x minus 3 plus another group of 2x minus 3. Okay, and the shortcut for that is we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 iterations of this group added together, so we write it as 4 groups of 2x minus 3. So now what we're going to do is go through, use the distribution process to remove the group. So we've got 4 groups of 2x's, so 4 times 2 is 8, so that gives us 8x. We've got 4 groups of this negative 3, so 4 times negative 3 would be negative 12. And then we're equaling the 28. Now we've got the distribution taken care of. Boom. We have no like terms to collect. This is a variable term with an x. This is a constant, so there's nothing to collect. You might think that these two are both constants. That's true, but when we collect like terms, we do everything just on its own expression or its own side of the equation. So on this left side, there are no other constant terms. So now we're going to start to go through and use some inverse operations. So we try to undo addition or subtraction around the variable first. So we do have our variable right here, so our work is going to come on this side of the equation, and we're going to undo this minus 12. So the opposite of undoing minus 12 is to add 12. And then the law of equality says you can do that as long as you do it to the other side of the equation as well. So we get negative 12 plus 12, which undoes it or creates a 0. And then we still have our 8x left over, equaling, and then on the other side we've got 28 plus 12, which gives us 40. So we are undoing it, or you could also say we're sort of creating a 0. Negative 12 plus 12 gives us 0. Then we can simplify this. 8x plus nothing gives us 8x, equaling 40. We are done with our undoing the addition or subtraction. And now we're going to undo the multiplication. When a number and a variable touch, that is multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is to divide. And we're not going to divide by 8x, we just want to divide by the coefficient, just by 8. And what we do to one side, we do to the other. So now we are left with 8 divided by 8, which creates 1. And then we have our x. So they're not canceling or magically going away, we're just using our fact that 8 divided by 8 makes 1. And on the other side, 40 divided by 8 gives us 5. And then 1x is what we want, a single x. But you could simplify that if you wanted to even more. 1 times any other number is the other number. So 1x is the same as x, because when you multiply by 1, you don't change. So we have our solution here is x equaling 5. And if we wanted to check our work, we could always take that value and plug it in, substitute it in for the variable. So I took out the x, I put 5 in its place, minus 3 equaling 28, and we just check. So here we have 2 times 5, which is 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. And then 4 times 7 is 28. So it works out. Okay, so I'm going to go a little faster for these next few examples. So here we have our equation, 7a minus a equals 54. So there's no grouping, so we have nothing to distribute. But we do have some like terms. We have a 7a minus one other a. So we have two variable terms. So 7 minus 1a gives us 6a equaling 54. So we've collected our like terms. We have no around our variable. So here's our variable right here. So this is the side we're working on. Around our variable, there is no addition or subtraction, so we can skip that step. We do have some multiplication though. When they touch, it means multiplication. So instead of a times 6, we're going to divide by 6. And what we do to one side, we do to the other. So we've got 6 divided by 6, which creates a 1. So we have 1a equaling 54 divided by 6 is 9. And 1 times that number stays that other number. So here's our solution. A has a value of 9. So there is our solution. Another example with some distribution. We are going to here have first to distribute. We're going to have 3 times 4 to give us 12x. We're going to have 3 times positive 8 to give us positive 24, equaling 84. We have now distributed. These are not like terms, so they cannot collect. So we have nothing to collect. Again, these are both constants, but they are on opposite sides of the equation, so they don't collect together. We're going to find our variable. So here it is. So all of our work is going to come on this left side. We're going to undo the addition or subtraction. So I have addition, so the inverse of that is subtraction. What I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So that will make a 0. 24 minus 24 is 0. So we have 12x plus nothing is 12x. On the other side, 84 minus 24 will give us 60. Then we've just undone the addition or subtraction. Now we're looking to undo the multiplication or division. So these touching is multiplication, so we're going to use division to undo that. So we've got 12 divided by 12, which is 1, and 1 times x gives us x. 60 divided by 12 is 5, and there is our solution. This is a value that makes this statement true. A couple more for you. This one, we are going to see there's no groups, so there's nothing to distribute. There are no like terms, so there's nothing to collect. Right here, we have addition or subtraction. We have a subtraction by 9, so I'm going to add 9 to undo that, plus 9 to both sides. So negative 9 plus 9 makes a 0, so we're left with w divided by 8 equaling negative 4 plus 9 gives us a positive 5. Now at this step, so we finished the undoing addition and subtraction. Now we've got the multiplication or division. We have division here, so the opposite of division is to multiply. So we're going to multiply this side by 8, and what we do to one side we do to the other. So we have this, when you were dividing by 8 and multiplying by 8, if we look at this, we would get 8 divided by 8, which again creates a 1. So we're down to 1 times w, which gives us w. And over here, we've got 5 times 8, which gives us 40. So there is our solution right there. Our unknown value would have a value of 40 to make the statement true. And if we look at this and make this w into a 40, we would have 40 divided by 8, which is 5, and 5 minus 9 gives us negative 4, so it works out. Now in this case, there's something a little bit different here. Okay, it does look different. So let's compare the previous problem with this new problem. Over here, we have a w being divided by 8 and then it's subtracting 9 away. Whereas over here on the right, we've got the number being subtracted by 9, then we're being divided by 8. So small differences. We start with the divide by 8 and then we subtract the 9. Over here, you're subtracting by 9 first, and then that answer is being divided by 8. So we're going to have to unwork these problems in a slightly different order. So here's what we did with the previous problem. We added 9. That gave us w divided by 8 equaling 5, and then we multiplied both sides by 8, which gave us w equaling 40. Over here it's going to be a little different. Over here I'm going to start with multiplying by 8, because within the division problem next to it there's no addition or subtraction, so I have to undo the division first. So here 8 divided by 8 gives us 1, which leaves us with just w minus 9 equaling negative 4 times 8 is negative 30, or excuse me, negative 4 times 8, excuse me, is negative 32. Then I've got this addition subtraction part, so add 9, and we get w equaling negative 32 plus 9 would be negative 23. So just be wary of when you perform. So here the division is contained to just the variable. Over here we have to do the subtraction first and then divide, which means we would then undo in the opposite order. We would start with the last thing being done, which is the division. Here the last thing done was negative 9, so we added. So pay attention to those subtle differences, and good luck.